Welcome to DC. You know we're down at the USA Cup. You're taking it slightly, I'm taking it slightly. Now how you thought I go, you gon' be right back. Well, we gon' be right here, we gon' be right here. We ain't going nowhere. Welcome to DC.
Hey, this is Hog Farmer Keith of the Hog Farmers Charitable Foundation. And before you listen to Owning the Huddle podcast presented by Red Zone in the Lab, the Hog Farmers Charitable Foundation has put together an awesome program where you can help make a difference in helping us raise money to assist families who are faced with the everyday stresses it takes for their child to battle cancer. How do you do this? Well, we challenge you to become a 2023 Hog Farmer Ambassador. You can check out this information on our website at hogfarmerscharity.org, or you can learn more by heading to our Facebook and or Twitter feeds. The way that you do this is you click the ambassador link, you start your campaign, you set a goal, you reach your audience, and you help raise $250 or more. So who's with us on helping put a smile on the family's face while they go through these tough times?
Welcome to Owning the Huddle podcast presented by Red Zone in the Lab, where we discuss all things Washington Commanders, from the executive and front offices, coaches, players, and fan experience. Join DT, Breeze, CeeLo, and Deuce as they break down the pre- and post games. Do it because you love it and not because it loves you. Hail Commanders!
Welcome back to OTA Podcast.
Welcome back, man. This is Owning the Huddle podcast, and I tried to do a DT on that opening, but I don't think it worked how DT be knocking it out. So hopefully Breeze or CeeLo can jump in next time and do those intros, man. But what's good, man? How y'all feeling today?
Good, man. Happy Easter, everybody.
Yeah, happy Easter, man.
Yeah. I'm here. We here, man. We here. So it's a late one this time, but we here though. We here.
Yeah, man. It's all good, man. Let's get to it.
Yeah, man. So, like, what else is there to talk about, man? Like, this is that period where free agency has already come and gone. I guess we did the first wave, the second wave. Usually the third wave don't come until after the draft. You might get some few signings here and there, like today with OBJ, which we're gonna get into a little bit later. But now we're just talking about drafting, and everybody got their mocks and BPA and all these different types of things. But outside of the draft, man, like CeeLo, what else can we talk about?
Not much, man. You know, you just kind of, we're gonna get into a little later about Ron and these comments, because he for some reason he loves to, stick foot in mouth a little bit, because he like to talk himself into some things. So he always gonna give you a few tidbits to talk about.
Man, I'm trying to think right now. What are we going to talk about? I mean, like, we're just going on Spaces every day, and it's either a Bijan argument, it's either a quarterback argument. I mean, at this point, it's kind of like last year when we were all together. Like, the topics were kind of getting dry until something actually happened. So we just got to push forward, man. I mean,
man, at this point, this is the driest part of the all season for everybody, man. I mean, I think next episode we might end up debating Madden ratings or something. Like, it's getting dry out. It's getting dry out here, man. Like, what y'all want to see in the next Madden, man? Who the cover athlete? Like, it's getting to be a rough time of year, but hopefully something pops and we get some good information, get some good stuff to talk about, moving forward.
All right, man. Like, go ahead, CeeLo.
We're gonna stream like a live Madden competition.
I mean, we can do that too. We can just go live and just play Madden.
Go live.
35 minutes. One of the hottest topics of the past week is best player available, BPA need. But let's kind of separate them. Let's talk about BPA. For me, best player available is taking a player regardless of how any room looks on your team. So, for instance, when you talk about the Commanders, a lot of us like our wide receiver room, at least 1 through 3, most of us can agree on. if JSN is there and he happens to be the best player on the board, the best player available, do you take him? Because if you're telling me that you're going best player available, that means that you're going to take JSN at that pick. So that's how I kind of look at when we talk about best player available. It just doesn't matter what's in any of the rooms, but that's kind of like how I look at it. What about you, DT?
So like that was kind of a good example right there. So when it comes to best player available, you're looking at how a lot of teams, they're trying to get what they need in the draft for the first half. But then eventually there are some teams like, number one pick, the majority of the times it's a quarterback or is a defensive end or a tackle. That's his history has shown that. But when it comes to, there's some players in this draft who just have special gifts, they're a special talent, but they either have a lingering history of injuries or character concerns, or they play a position that is not within the premium position grouping. When you talk about the premium positions, you're talking about the quarterback position, obviously. You're talking about the tackles now. You're talking about corner, which is one of the hardest positions to play in the NFL and football overall. Wide receivers, the market has been growing lately. Now you're trying to get rookie wide receivers on deals to pair up with your number ones, and you're trying to build a trio. And as you can see, Washington, we right now have a trio that can be unlocked if we have the right quarterback. So when you think about best player this year, one of the best players perhaps is Bijan Robinson. Now the obvious
trigger.
Now the obvious conversation with Bijan is like, yes, he is an extremely talented player. But when you're looking at some of the needs that Washington is trying to get, we've been harping on the offensive line. We've been harping on getting a corner that can make this defense even better than before. We also been harping on the linebacker position. So you're trying to get something that, yes, he's a special talent, but there's other places you can fix. But then there's also the argument where you can get a talent like that, and that takes you to another level. I believe, Bijan has that ability to take Washington to another level. And let's be real. Like, I love B-Rob. I love Antonio Gibson. But I think this kid he's on another level. I think he has better instincts as a runner, and he has the ability to go 0 to 60 when given an opportunity. And I think that's something that a lot of the fan base is trying to get, especially with a young quarterback on board or a veteran like Jacoby Brissett, whoever gets the starting job this year.
Yeah, I mean, so when you talk about BPA, best player available versus need, like the draft in and of itself is an inexact science, and everybody kind of has their own formula to kind of going into it. Y'all took probably two of the best players, in my opinion, as far as like using for examples, as far as the Commanders and BPA. It's a weird thing to think about because obviously football is like your ultimate team sport, right? You got 53 people, everybody plays a role. One player doesn't really make a difference in football. So for me, when you talk about picking, me personally, it's kind of hard for me to go with best player available situationally because every team is obviously built and structured differently. But as it pertains to the Commanders, I don't know that the Commanders are a team that can afford to go best player available at 16. Now, positional value does play a role in that. So, if somebody that you expect to be a top 5 pick falls to you at 16, obviously there's a conversation that needs to be had. But I just think the Commanders, as it pertains to the Commanders, there are a few too many holes that need to be filled to take a luxury pick at 16, even if it is, I hate the G word. I'm not gonna say that word. Even if it is, I'm not gonna say it. Even if it is somebody that's a difference maker, at a position that we don't really need to have filled. It's a kind of toss up thing. But yeah, it's me personally. I'm going with need every time. Best player available at a need for me. If it's me making the pick.
Yeah, I think I kind of agree with you, Breeze. I think. It's really team dependent. Like I have to believe all teams don't equally apply this BPA method on their boards, right? Like if we were to take all 32 teams, they probably have like the same 32 players, but they're in different, right? They're in different rankings. And so what that means is there's not a consensus on the BPA or their needs are factored into it.
Right.
And so I look at it like this, right? So first round, what is a first round talent? To me, I'm talking about first round for a second, right? First round talent is a talent where you believe like this dude is going to kill it, and he is like the safest, the most talented, everything you can think of. Like the strengths outweigh the weaknesses. It's just bona fide. And based on some reading that I've done, a lot of teams, maybe 10 to 12 players are first round talents. Everyone else is to be determined. So what that means is after those 10 or 12 players are gone, then the BPA, like the need is really like a big deal, because how much better is that BPA versus what you need? So if you go pure BPA, like how much better is JSN from a Joey Porter Jr., right? Like is he that much better than Joey Porter? Can you justify that taking a fourth wide receiver versus a need that you have where the difference in the two players is so small? Why not just go with Joey Porter Jr.? That's just an example, right? It basically nullifies the BPA context after those guaranteed players are off the board. So that's what I'm saying. Like I think after those players are gone, then teams kind of say, all right, I'm gonna pivot back to, hey man, this guy may be 5 positions too early, but so what? He's gonna kill it for me, and I'm gonna be all set. So that's kind of how I look at it. And I think that's how a lot of teams do it, just based on, again, where they are in their rebuilding or in their team structure and how they go from there.
Yeah, I think it's a go ahead, DC.
Yeah, I want to say this too, though. When you look at this draft and some of the drafts in the past, the one thing that has boosted that argument that you brung, CeeLo, is when you have a certain position that has so much depth that a team, they think and they can believe, hey, I know this guy is talented, but I think I can afford to miss out on a Joey Porter, and I can get the same production elsewhere from like a guy somewhere else from like Kentucky or Colorado, things like that. He could ball out. For example, like last year, Tariq Woolen, he fell all the way to the 5th round, and he was runner-up for Defensive Rookie of the Year with Sauce Gardner. And I won't say that class was kind of deep last year. I think this class is a little bit better in terms of the quantity of corners we have this year. But the simple fact that, like, hey, I feel like I can get someone that can do the same thing that Sauce Gardner do in the next round. And I think there's going to be things coming up this year.
Yeah, I think it's a philosophical thing. So theoretically speaking, right, if you're picking towards the top of the draft, right? If you picking towards the top of the draft, right, and you don't trade for that pick, like you quote unquote earn that pick towards the top of the draft by having a bad season the year before, you probably have a lot of holes that need to be filled anyway. You know what I mean? So in that thought process, like depending on what your needs are, you can probably afford to draft the best player available, because you can probably fit that person in and they can help your team regardless of what your need is. Now, we all know a lot of times, quarterbacks go towards the top of the draft because quarterback is the most important position. But the later you get into the draft, like those I guess BPA guys, like you have less and less holes to fill on your roster in theory. So you can probably just more so draft for need. And I think that's what happens when we see guys that kind of have a middle to late first round grade. A lot of those guys tend to slide a little bit into second round, and some of them even slide further than that, because those teams toward the back half of the first round don't need to draft players at a JS, don't need like a JSN, because they have receivers already. They don't need to get name that player because they have players in those positions already. So those guys tend to slide, especially when you have a position like in this draft, a cornerback or running back that seems to be fairly deep. You know what I mean? You don't need to go, I don't need to draft this guy here because I can fill that position later on.
Now, So let's say that's what they're doing, right? So they kind of going BPA at the position of need, first round, maybe even second round. But so what do you do, third, fourth, fifth? Do you just go after ballers, highly athletic, or do you start to really point? I need a guard. So let me go get a guard, regardless of the ranking. Like, how do you feel like their draft boards look as the players start to kind of decline and start to mesh? They all kind of look the same.
Yeah, so if it's me making the pick, and this is just me, I can't speak to anybody else's philosophy on it, but if this is me making the pick, the further I get into the draft, the more I'm inclined to draft best player available because of that slide that I was talking about. So like with us last year with Sam Howell, like we had Carson, we by that point we had already had Carson Wentz on the roster, right? We already had Taylor Heineke. We don't need a quarterback at that point, but if you got a second or third round grade, or well, we know how it turned
really
out.
None there anyway. I was willing to take, but yeah,
yeah, but if you got a second or third round grade on Sam Howell and he's available in the fifth round, all right, at this point his positional value is too good to pass up at this point. Now we can go BPA. It's the fifth round. Why not? Who knows what may happen? We all ultimately saw what happened with the quarterback position. But like for me, the deeper you get into the draft, the more you can kind of afford to go BPA because you can the guys do tend to slide a little bit.
Okay.
Well, we also know for this organization, there were some players last year that we thought, hey, this makes total sense to get them in the second, third round. But unfortunately, their board, like I said, their board is way different from what our boards are. I mean, the kid from Penn State, he was the safety last year. He was in the second round, Brisker, and we went for Darian Mathis. And we're like, why did we go defensive tackle knowing that we needed secondary help? Well, to them, he was one of their top defensive tackles, and it was also a player of need because you lost the kid from last year. I can't get his name right now.
Ionitis.
You lost Matt Ionitis. So that filled a big need because you didn't have no depth after Deron Payne and Jonathan Allen. And then you also pay that back again later on in the season because you got another guy who was on the same level as Mathis and Ridgeway. So like their board is
round pick.
Yeah, their board is going to be way different for what we've seen. So you're going to see some players that's going to be on the board, and you're going to be like, yeah, we got to get them. But then there's a whole entirely different player that we never expected. So,
even with Jahan, like most people, I had Jahan as my fourth best receiver going to the draft last year. Most people didn't have Jahan getting picked that early in the draft.
Neither did Jahan.
But see, like that's the thing. Like when you talk about like BPA versus need and even reaches, when people say a reach or, I'm like, okay, so what do you call a reach? Is it by a certain amount of picks? Is it by rounds? Because if you think about it, a lot of people had a first round grade on Jahan, right? Late first. But who thought all those wide receivers was going to start to jump off the board? So now if you have him graded a fourth and fifth wide receiver and all those four guys in front of him got picked, you can't take a chance. You know what I'm saying? So you pick them. That's why I don't see it as a reach because this is a need. This is something you wanted to do. You even went back some picks. You even traded back and he was still available. So in a sense, you still got the quote unquote, whatever you want to, depending on how you have him, the fifth best wide receiver in that draft or prospect or grade or however you want to do it. But you may have got him like 10 picks earlier than to someone's mock. But who's mock? Right? Like whose mock is we gonna say he's a reach on? Is it Kuiper's? Right. Is it this guy? Is it this guy? Is it this guy? Because on Ron's board, that we just totally forget about the actual team's board, where the team has scouts specifically looking for specific players for their teams. When these national guys is looking at everyone in the whole, trying to pull in just enough information to say, oh yeah, this is this, and this player. They don't have the time to actually dig through each player, like these teams are looking for specific players and they put their energy in it, unlike the national team. So why do we ignore the actual team's board? Like, what if their board had Jahan like the third graded wide receiver? Like they have scouts to do that same thing. You know what I'm saying? So it's like we can't see Ron's board. That's why I tell people, well, who is he a reach to? Like, is he a reach to Kuiper? Is he a reach to what's the other dude name?
McShay,
Yeah,
Shea,
The
McShay.
Kuiper, Mayock.
unemployed.
Right.
Yeah.
See what I'm saying? It's like, who is he a reach to? You know what I'm saying? So go ahead.
And them
Sam.
dudes are wrong a lot.
But just to push back on that a little bit, I think so. Typically, you have a consensus on the player's talent, right? So you have a position, and most positions are graded within that position, right? You know, the second quarterback or whatever. And I think that's where people kind of get sucked into. You know, who saw Jamin Davis going at that position at that round? We can all maybe we can all none of us know what that board looked like, right? But they needed a linebacker, right? But they chose that linebacker at that point in time. That's the issue. Now you say who's bored? I think it's more about so within that position group, where did you have him ranked, Ron? Versus, I don't know, where did you have him ranked? Pittsburgh Steelers, the linebacker university, right? And that's where you want to figure out, what some of these drafts look like. So Ron's draft boards almost never make sense to me. But I can't knock him for it because so far, not bad. It's been okay. So I get it. Yeah. It's a little bit unorthodox based on the way they rank players and positional value and who's really BPA, even in a position of need versus what they think versus what everyone else thinks. So sometimes that's what confuses people how they view these guys. Because I'm telling you, I didn't see that going that high.
But see, like to your point, it's like it's confusing. But what do we know?
Yeah, we don't. You're right.
We don't know. Like I can't really say, well,
yeah,
your philosophy stinks.
Yeah.
Like how can I say that if I don't know what your philosophy is? Like if you're not coming out, like teams will come out and say, hey, look, we're going BPA. Like we've heard that before.
Yeah.
We going best player available, or we going need, or that's all smokescreen. I mean, whatever. But the actual board and how they value, I would love to see it. Like teams, like you say, the Steelers that have success with linebackers. Let me see how y'all board looks that Jamie year compared to our board.
Love to see that.
You know what I'm saying? Like let me see it, but because other than that, I'm just going off of what I think that they're doing and what I've seen from the past to try to pull it all together. But man, like I would love to see some of these teams draft these teams big boards. I would pay for it. Right.
I think it'll be dope if after the draft, like teams like just
that would be.
They not doing that.
No, I know you're not. I'm saying like just their first round, like their first round grade.
What about a sneak? Just a little.
Yeah.
Jerry Jones did it last year.
Yeah, I don't think it was intentional, but he did.
Hi, I'm Christian Miles, native Washingtonian and real estate agent servicing the Washington metropolitan area. I started my career as an investor and later transitioned to the residential side. I really wanted to leave the investor side because I wanted to connect with people. Building relationships is important to me. I understand the buying and selling process can be challenging. I get it. I've been there. I'm a mom, wife, friend, and neighbor. I absolutely love helping families and connecting with people. Going through the home buying and selling process is stressful enough. When working with me, I make it fun. As a realtor, I think it's important to be able to connect with you. Every detail is important, no matter how small. Let me take care of the heavy lifting while you focus on the joys of finding a new home. Something I live by, people may not remember what you said, but they will always remember how you made them feel. With me, it's an experience.
But I mean, like I said, I can't question them. Like I said, I had Jahan as my fourth best receiver. I had Drake London as fifth behind Jahan Dotson. But they picked Jahan. You can argue fairly easily for the games he was healthy. Jahan was the most or second most productive receiver in his class for the games he was healthy in. Like people can call him a reach, but when he got on the field, he showed worthy of that pick, if not being picked higher. You know what I'm saying? So I can't like, it's easier to say, well, I wouldn't have done that. Well, I don't get paid to make them decisions. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I mean, that's another thing. Like Brandon Sheriff was drafted to be a tackle.
Right tackle.
Is he a reach? I mean, he's a Pro Bowler.
Most
all pro.
Most people
you see what I'm saying? Like when you look back, like maybe that wasn't a reach. I mean, he's an all pro. You know what I'm saying? So it's like that's why this draft is something else. Because some people say you grade a draft 3 years after. You know what I mean?
That has to be one of the highest guards ever taken. Like,
but he was taken as a tackle.
He was picked as a tackle though.
They just turned him into a guy.
He got beat like a drum in training.
He couldn't even get past preseason.
No, this ain't gonna work. This ain't gonna work. This ain't gonna work. This ain't gonna work. This ain't gonna work.
What was Eric Flowers? He's like number 10, right? Or something like that.
He was number 10.
He was number 10.
Yeah, he was drafted as a tackle too.
Right
tackle, yeah.
Right tackle.
Wow.
I
think Flowers was left tackle, wasn't he?
Oh, was he left tackle?
Yeah, left tackle.
I think Flowers was left tackle.
I think Sheriff was right tackle. Wasn't he? I think Sheriff was right tackle.
Sheriff was a right tackle, yeah.
Because they had Trent.
Sheriff was a right tackle because we had Morgan Moses. And that was Moses' second year in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They drafted him to replace Morgan Moses, and then he got beat routinely in practice. And Jay Gruden was like, "Nah, you know what? Stop this right now. Go ahead, take a step to your left real quick."
Okay.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. The draft is something else, man. It's but I think it's very tough. Like that's why I ask people, well, if you call it a reach, who is it a reach to? Like, how is it a reach? What is a reach to you? Is it a reach to your board? Okay, cool, I get it. Yeah, that's your board. You know what I'm saying? But
that's why after those first 10 or 15 no-brainers, everything's a toss-up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just you can justify anything, especially if they end up popping in the league. Then who cares?
Yeah.
So I got a question for y'all, and we were talking about tackles, talking about best player available, things like that. So, this scenario, it's probably might be obvious to y'all, but I think it will merit some conversation. So, let's say the top 3 to 4 tackles are gone, and your top corners are gone. You have Bijan. So possibly your next highest tackle will be a Darnell Wright. Now, I don't know where Darnell Wright will be in terms of the big board, but I do know for right now, a lot of the consensus is Bijan is a top 5 to top 10 player. Are you going to take the top 10 player, or are you going to take a guy that plays a premium position?
I'm calling Dallas, and I'm calling.
I ain't calling Dallas for nothing. I'm calling Dallas for nothing.
I'm probably gonna call Buffalo, and
I'll call Buffalo.
Maybe Tampa, and I'm gonna try to get me a haul because I think obviously, is sort of I keep talking about the 10, 15 players. Is Bijan those is that player one of those players that you can't lose? He is going to be that dude. That's question number one. If he's that dude and you can't lose, you got to pick him, right? You got to pick him because we don't have like a lot. We may have a top 15 running back room. We ain't got a top 5 running back room, in my opinion.
I agree to that.
So you got to pick them. Now, I know some people might not like that.
Maybe that's something we can talk about.
Our running back room. Yeah, I'm just saying, like it's not like this ain't the wide receivers conversation. This is the running back conversation.
Mm-hmm.
Now, unfortunately, you got a guy going his last year in the league. I mean, in contract time, and then you have B Rob who's coming back, hopefully healthy. You can justify a Bijan, so you can take him, or you try to get a haul and get something later on in terms of a running back or offensive tackle that you might like, and versus just going after Darnell Wright. So that's how I would look at it.
Yeah, I think Bijan will be like an awkward fit this year in our running back room just because of the 2 people, I guess, theoretically ahead of him. But it does, like, if Bijan slides to 16, it's hard to pass that player up based on what he did in college. Now, obviously, we don't know what he'll be in the NFL. but the draft is based on what you did in college plus your projection in the NFL. Now those two things combined, I think he's a top 5 player to draft. Talent wise, if although he plays the devalued position, but yeah, if he falls to 16, it's kind of hard to pass on that player. But that all but guarantees that Gibson is elsewhere in 2024. Which I mean, hey, some people
I'm
like
not
that.
paying him anyway. Like he will have to show out this upcoming year, and I just don't think that's possible with all these weapons. I mean, he still might be good and productive for sure, but I mean, I'm not paying a running back's second contract.
I just think he's going to end up being
especially with his injuries. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think he's going to end up being a role player, and unfortunately for him, the role he's going to end up playing is probably not one that's going to get paid very well, or worth paying at all for the Commanders to give him a second contract. He'll still have a job. He'll have a job in the league.
Oh yeah, most definitely.
But yeah, I mean, I just think if you end up with that player in the draft and you still have Robinson on a rookie deal, why would I give a third starting caliber running back a second contract? Like, it doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean? Or you could try to shop him and trade him potentially too. That's another potential aspect to it.
Isn't he like a 4-3 guy? Is he a 4-3 guy?
I believe so.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Either high 4-3 or low 4-4. One of those two. Gibby not slow though. Like he got some pop to him.
It's just that get up. It's just like he run like he riding a horse.
He still the thing about Gibson is he plays running back like he's still a receiver. You know what I'm saying? Gibson is a big dude. Like he should be able to lean on people and run through people. But he still plays running back.
Like he's not trying to get contact.
Yeah, and when he does get, like, he goes down on first contact a lot. He doesn't fight through tackles that well. So when you look at those things, he's a good and productive player. But I think ultimately the best thing for him is to be in a role and not necessarily be an every down back or a starting running back.
He's a 4-3-9 guy.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
He doesn't show it on the field.
His issue for me is balance. His balance and contact.
Yeah.
Where he goes down with it, when you blow on him, he's falling over.
Yeah.
Like falls. But like I think he's definitely just doesn't really push through. Like you watch a guy like Saquon or the dude out in the Titans. I mean they get knocked around, but they somehow keep their balance and they keep going forward. And Antonio just kind of falls. I'm like, bro,
you trying to hold on to that football?
Tackle, bro.
You trying to hold on to that football?
That's
probably what it is too.
Yeah, that's that balance thing that, like you said, that Bijan brings. I mean, even Gibbs, like both of those guys kind of bring those. I was watching some stuff on him today, and he was breaking tackles. You know what I'm saying? Breaking off tackles, bouncing off tackles, leg tackles, tripping up, keeping his balance, still able to run or fall forward for like 8-9 yards. You know what I'm saying? Like those type of things. That's why, when you really start thinking about it, I still don't think Ron and them do it. I wouldn't do it, but second round, third round, second day, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't even be surprised if a trade down. Like this whole conversation with Bijan, with me, it changes 6 picks down. You know what I'm saying? But again, we have to have someone that wants to come up.
Question. Is there any scenario we trade up?
I don't see it.
I don't see it.
Nah,
I don't see it. I don't think there's anybody special enough for them to trade, for them to give up draft capital and potentially players to move up and get. Like if they do that, they're gonna have to give up a lot. And they're gonna be moving up really high to get somebody, and I don't see it.
I don't think Ron and them think that we have like a heavy need anyway. To be honest,
that too.
Yeah, that's why
I don't like. I don't think they believe we have a heavy need at tackle, guard, center, corner. Like I just don't think they believe we have a heavy need at any of those positions. So
that's
I don't see them trading up.
That's my problem.
Yeah, I think they're going to sit at 16 and pick who they feel is the best player available. We can debate. Everybody has an opinion, has a different opinion on who that player may be. But I think they're going to sit at 16 and pick the best player available. And then depending depending who's available at 16, I can see them trading back. You know, if there's somebody that somebody else wants, like you said, if Bijan is there and you got a team like Buffalo or somebody, that wants to come up and select him, which would be him on that offense would be nasty.
This is crazy.
But like, yeah, I see. I'm about 50-50 on them staying at 16 and trading back. I don't see a scenario in which they trade up at all.
Okay. I mean, is there anyone that you think they would trade up for? Like for me, if it was me, only person I trade up for is probably Witherspoon 2 picks and maybe Gonzalez 2 or 3 picks.
I was
or Paris Johnson, but I don't think they coming nowhere near there. But
I was gonna say the same thing, but they've never, like, Ron's never picked cornerback that high. So that
he might not go corner to day 3, bro.
Like,
that's what
like you said, dude. I don't think they see an immediate need at a lot of, like, I think they're committed to Sam Howell at quarterback. I think they're cool with the running back room. We already know about the receiver room. You know what I mean? Like I tight end, I think they think they're set at tight end. Like I said a few weeks ago, they don't necessarily have a starting 5 on the O-line, but they have 5 guys that can start. We already know the D line is stacked and built up. Linebacker maybe, but like there's nobody to trade up for that early in the draft. Cornerback, theoretically, they have Kendall Fuller and BSJ who can start. You may need some help on the back end, like with depth purposes, but again, not necessarily a trade up scenario. And in safety, we said at safety too. Like, I don't think that they view any position as an immediate need.
So just think about the 2 positions you just said.
The fingers down, yeah.
No, I'm just right now. We cooking. Think about these 2 positions you just said: offensive line and linebacker. Both of them have question marks, regardless of what you think about it. Like, I don't care what Ron says. I understand. Like, yeah, you got some guys, but some of them guys are just guys. They're not bona fide guys. I can believe they can start 8 to 10 years, be even a Chris Samuels or a Trent Williams. Like, and then the linebacker position, like, yeah, that still has been a question mark. So that kind of screams to me why I feel like, and I know Deuce gonna say this, you gotta find a trade partner, you gotta dance with somebody, but that just tells me, like, some way, somehow, we gotta trade back and then try to get recruits and pick. Because I don't think, to me, I feel like I want to say it's a reach getting a linebacker, but if there's a guy, like, if you feel like there's a linebacker that's worthy of a first round pick, he has a first round grade, go ahead and take it. Especially he can play right now with Jamin Davis, because you need someone alongside with Jamin and Cody Barton. I think Cody Barton, he's going to be solid in spot starting. I don't think he's going to be a consistent 17 game starter, but you need some athleticism in the linebacker room, and then you just need to get a starting tackle for the future purposes and a starting guard. Like,
I agree. That's why I think the pick is going to be a tackle. Because even though I know they like Charles Leno. Charles Leno was getting up there in age. I know they just signed Andrew Wiley, but he, if you look at his production is kind of hit or miss. You know what I mean? Like, he knows the offense and all that kind of stuff, but his production is up and down. That's why I feel like the pick is going to be a tackle if there's one there. But like you said, I think they have guys that they feel like can start. So I'm with you on trading back, but I think it depends on who's there. Who's available when they end up on the clock? Like you said,
it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, if those top tackles, if those top players, those top 2-3 players that they see at those positions are gone, I can see them trade back, because then position, like, if you can move back, if you want to pick a tackle, right, and after those first 2 or 3 guys are gone, your next highest graded tackle is at like 22. You can afford to trade back and probably still get that player and accumulate maybe another mid or a late pick. It's just a strategy thing, but it's
Ron and them think we stacked, man. I think Sam was that one player away, man. Ron and them going to that joint like they Buffalo or they like San Fran or one of them teams, man. I just don't think they really believe that we have like a real big need. They going to that joint parlaying.
So
Yeah.
so what do they call it? Is it blue chip player, right?
Blue chip prospect.
How many blue chip players do we have on this team?
On the team,
Probably Allen.
Allen. Wait,
Way,
hold on.
Trustway.
As far as blue chip in the NFL,
I would say blue chip in the NFL, not just not just in a position. I mean, like legitimately blue chip. They can play in any team. They'll be a beast.
Let me see. Any team that'd be a beast. That changes it a little bit.
4. I got 4, maybe 5.
You think we got 4 blue chip players? Okay.
Yeah. Go ahead, DT.
No, I'm saying I want to hear his 5. I'm intrigued.
Jonathan Allen, Deron Payne, Terry McLaurin, Trustway.
We got a punter.
And
it's true though.
I'm sorry.
Hey, we traded up for
and then the possible for me, maybe Cam Curl, maybe. But yeah, I would say 4 on the possible. I think there are a few guys on the roster that have potential to get there. I think Jahan Dotson has that potential. Yeah, I think Jahan Dotson has that potential, but I'm not gonna give it to him after a year where he missed 6 games.
I got 4. I got same thing you got. Allen, Payne, Terry, Trustway.
Yeah.
So I have Allen, Terry, and Trust. I got to see a little bit more from Payne. I know it sounds crazy.
That's fair. That's fair.
I know, he had a dog year. He's a dog himself. So that's and the reason I asked that question is, so when you draft and you think you're set at a particular position, you got to ask yourself, is this person either going to be a dog in my room and he's going to make us that much more better, or he's going to be redundant? And so I'm really all set. Or I don't need a tight end. I'm good. And that's the question they got to ask themselves. If they really think they're set and they don't have any sense of urgency, and that's when I talk about, trading up, then I'm questioning, and I'm gonna start to question if he's kind of having rose-colored glasses a little bit. Like, bro, like this is not the best, team in the Northeast. This is in the NFL. So you got to go out and get dogs, and that's the Bijan talk. That's the up for Witherspoon talk. That's like, I need a dog. I don't need to hope that Chris, what's his name, one of the one of these 5th and 6th corners going to turn around and be a dog. I can't bank. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's why he's not going corner, because we got these potential dogs in the house.
and he feels he can get him later on. I mean, if you look at his past drafts, the highest corner he's taken was 2nd round. And, you got Josh Norman, James Bradbury, Dante Jackson. All 3 of them guys have had either great, unless they went to somewhere else, hits Washington, and just have solid careers, and they just balled out. I mean, I think that's his philosophy, which is, I can't argue against that. But sometimes, like CeeLo was trying to point out, like, we only have legit 3 to 4, and you need someone that can take you over the top. And like he said, the Bijan conversation definitely comes into play, because we didn't name no running backs. We didn't name no running backs. And Bijan, he is a blue chip prospect.
Yeah.
Ain't no tight end.
He's a blue chip prospect for sure.
That's the only thing that scares me, is that, I always worry about running backs transitioning to the NFL. Because and I know it's an extreme, but like guys like Trent Richardson are like, they terrify me, because in college, when you have a good to decent offensive line and you're a good running back, the holes are this big. You know what I mean? Like, you don't have to necessarily have the vision to hit certain stuff. When stuff opens up, if you got a big line that can lean on a bad line, they can open holes up in a minute. Like in the league, everybody is, it should be the best at their position. So them holes may not open up as big. Them holes may not open up as fast. You got your vision got to be like that. And I know Bijan has good vision, but it worries me transitioning to the next level. And I just feel like moving up the product. I don't know. Like, he'll be a good and productive player. I think he'll be a good and productive player. Don't get me wrong. I just feel like for the running back position, because it has been devalued, you can get close to production wise what Bijan will give you from a later pick in the draft. That's why I I'm always worried about picking the running back in the first round. Like, I would have picked Zeke in the first round. I would have picked Saquon in the first round. I would pick Bijan in the first round, but it's just I don't know,
And even the tight end position too. Like, we talk about Michael Mayer and Dalton Kincaid. Those are two guys like I think that can help us out. But the tight end position also, it takes a while to get used to it. And you look at the past drafts, a lot of those guys, it takes a while for them to like get going. Like Kyle Pitts has not gotten going, even though he has not had consistent quarterback play in Atlanta. So that pick is starting to look bad because of circumstance. But guys like Tyler Hawkinson, he didn't really click until he got to Minnesota. So those are to like consider when you're trying to look at this team. So I think for Washington's sake, and let's be real, I don't think we're as close to a lot of teams like nationally talent wise. We have talent, but I think we don't have someone that can push us over where we need to be. But like we talk about our blue chip players, we have a lot of fringe blue chip players. I'm gonna keep it real. Like Chase Young is a fringe blue chip player. He just stay healthy and be consistent. Montez Sweat, Cam Curl, Kendall Fuller, he's had some rough starts in the beginning. Benjamin St. Juice. Like, we got a lot of young guys, but it's all about availability and just consistency.
Like, when you look at those fringe guys, let's say like Curl, he's just not like, I don't know when the last time, like him and Defoe, like this whole safety tandem, the prospect, the plays that they make, the production they put on the field. A lot of these young guys, like when the last time have we had a roster full of quote unquote fringe blue chip guys or guys that you can see possibly becoming blue chip? You know what I'm saying? Just by their production, their trajectory from rookie to where they are now, it's a steady climb. Even with Jamin, right? I mean, it was low for a while, you know what I'm saying? And then he started trajecting up. You know what I'm saying? Like, when have we last time we've had a roster similar to this? I can't think of, I really can't. Even those J offenses like Garcon and D-Jax, like they was already at a level and they were just there. It's not like they just got better and better. They were just there. And eventually they kind of, started going down. But we actually have players that's trajecting up. And I just can't remember when we've had this.
True. Crazy part, everybody that we named as a blue chip player was all brought in by Jay Gruden. That's the crazy part. Like Jonathan, Tress, Deron, they're all Jay Gruden picks or signings. Everybody that's kind of fringe is Ron.
I mean, they have been in the league as long too, though. But I get it.
Yeah. Sure.
But see, they would have traded all these dudes though. Like Payne wouldn't be here.
That's true.
I mean, Terry probably would be here, but Allen probably would have left. Payne probably would have left. You know what I'm saying? He'd have kept cheat.
It's time to start looking at 2020 draft. It's time.
Yeah.
And I know we say it's not fair because that was Kyle
it's a
Smith,
mixture. Yeah.
Mix of that. But we gotta start looking at guys like Sadiq Charles and Antonio Gibson. Are any of these guys gonna get a second contract, or are they gonna all move on?
Yeah. I mean, I ain't giving because like when you look at Gibson, I think he's worked. I think that was a good pick, right? He got 2,000 yard seasons out of 3. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and he is a running back too. So most of the time, you're not going to give running backs like big second contracts. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, and most of the time, they don't stay with the same team. But as far as production, I'll say he was a hit. I mean, how many running backs you can say? Looking at that draft, how many of those running backs had 2,000 yard rushing seasons?
I got to look at that draft. Who drafted in 2020? But my issue with what's that?
You really want to know?
Oh shoot.
I mean, drafted after him, not before him, but after him.
Oh well,
That's a different story. Yeah.
I just
well. I mean, go ahead, CeeLo.
I was just gonna say I think the issue with my issue with that pick was he was a project, right? He was going to convert from wide receiver to running back. I know he had a lot of jet sweeps and little quick hitches he would run, so it was almost not. It was it should be a very seamless transition, but you can tell he's not a natural running back. He runs weird. He runs kind of upright. He takes some licks sometimes unnecessarily because he doesn't know how to running backs when you play for all your life, you know how to kind of avoid the really, really big hits. And so little things like that. So do you spend your energy on a player like that and say, oh, well, every time, he misses a hole or he fumbles, well, he's still working at it. I mean, do you really want to say that, for a guy, or could you have gone with the legit running back, and just had him go from day one? And that's my issue is the plan for him. Is that plan is the juice worth the squeeze, as they say? You know what I'm saying? That's all. And then the last part is that his yards per carry and stuff were horrible. Like he only had one 20-yard game. One. For that kind of speed, he had one in 2023 and 2022. And his yards per carry was under 4. So I don't know. It's tough.
Antonio Gibson is Antonio Gibson and Brian Robinson are pretty much the same size. Like I know B Rob is more muscular, but their weight and height wise, Gibson is taller and they're about the same weight. And I remember thinking back, y'all remember the Falcons game this year when B Rob caught I think it was a swing pass and ran to do it over. Like we haven't seen Antonio Gibson do that in 3 years. Like
no, he got that one screen against who was that? Green Bay or the Colts or somebody? Buffalo. But see, like that's the thing with like us and we talk about like especially this year with the running game. People that don't watch our games think we got like this, like we had one of the best rush offenses in the league because they say B Rob and he was on pace for 1,200 and at one point he was like averaging over 4 yards a carry. I'm like, bro, this dude's getting hit. I think he was like top 5 getting hit like 2 yards behind the line of scrimmage. You know what I'm saying? I don't think there were any plays that he played in that he was able to get to second level without being touched. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know, man. It's so much to unpack, and you can make excuses.
That's true.
Like you can find them and they'll make sense. But at the end of the day, man, like we need production. Like, you know what I'm saying? These are NFL players.
Yeah. So I think for Gibson, aside from some of the injuries and some of the deficiencies he has had, I think another thing has been hurting him has been Scott Turner. I mean, the first 2 years he had like 21 total touchdowns. Like he was a scoring threat. And then this year you couldn't score. So I do believe EB will probably use him way better than what Scott was doing. But I just feel like it's kind of crazy that he might have his most productive year in a contract year. And unfortunately, you can't really try to afford to pay him when you can get another guy that can do the same stuff just like him.
Yeah. I mean, you remember when Gibson got drafted. Here's the thing. Gibson was what, a 3rd round pick? Yeah, 3rd, 4th round pick. Third round pick. When he was drafted, y'all remember the running backs ahead of him when he got drafted? At the time?
I know one of them was Jonathan Taylor.
No. I mean in our running back room.
Oh, we had Geis and AP.
Right. So it's like he wasn't drafted to be, like the every down. Yeah, he wasn't necessarily drafted to be that. But once he got here, Geis had his issues and they let him go. And then I guess AP just kind of aged out and they felt like they could move on. He kind of just stepped up, but he wasn't necessarily. I don't know because I'm not in the meeting in those rooms, obviously. But I don't think he was drafted here to be that guy. Dude, you muted, dudes. I don't think he was drafted to be that guy. He just kind of fell into that role. So he, he kind of got an unfair shake to an extent because he wasn't. I don't think he was meant to be that guy. He kind of ended up becoming that guy. Then he had 2,000-yard seasons, one of which he gave the ball up a lot, which I think was just a bad season, not a thing, because he's had outside of that one season he's had what 2 fumbles, two or 3 career fumbles in those other years. I think losing one of them maybe. But yeah, I see them adding to the room, but I just don't. I don't see them going to a top flight guy if they can avoid it.
Probably right.
BPA versus Need. It's gonna be the talk for the next couple of weeks, man. So hopefully we get something this week. On the 20th, no, the 27th, day one of the draft, we're going live from starting at 6 all the way to the end of the draft. So come chop it up with us. Thank you all for listening. Thank you for watching. Remember, do it because you love it, not because it loves you. One beat, one sound, one heart, one love.
Thank you for listening to Owning the Huddle podcast. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel at Red Zone in the Lab and follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. You can download our podcast wherever you get your podcasts and visit us at redzoneinthelab.com.